join me as I ended up in Paris and explored the surrounding regions, drank a lot of wine, went to the Paris Air Show, saw the beautiful Mont Saint-Michel, experienced the magical world of Disneyland Paris, getting fancy at Chateau Versailles, getting vertigo at the Eiffel Tower, seeing the beautiful Notre-Dame de Rouen Cathedral in Rouen, raiding a Viking's wardrobe, taking a dip in Dieppe, having a train cancelled because of a storm, so we took a bus in the storm, seeing the worst roundabout in the world, and finally we joined a bike tour, where we borrowed these nice Dutch-style bikes. We were in a nice, small, convenient group of 4, plus the guide. Honestly, I did not know what we were going to see on this tour, or really what to expect. It was called the Paris Secrets Tour. So we left the Opéra area. And we tried to get used to the streets of Paris. Mostly we were following the guide, seeing what she was doing, following her instructions. So it was really helpful in that sense. I don't think I would have done a tour by myself in the city, so it was a nice way to see the city in a mode of transportation that I really love. So as you can see, a lot of traffic, both car, pedestrians, other cyclists. But the setting is quite beautiful. So because this two-way bike lane ended, we had to do this awkward S-bend to then mix in traffic. But it's okay because we're turning on this street here, which ended up being kind of narrow. It's actually a one-way street, but often they allow bikes to go in the other direction. So we're coming to our first stop here. Which is a shopping mall known as the Galerie Vivienne. Now if you know the history of shopping malls, this is a nice early example opened in the early 19th century. The idea of the shopping mall came from the idea that streets at the time, which literally carried sewage because there was no sewer pipes or anything like that. There were horses, bad weather, etc. So this is the idea, to have a nice indoor, comfortable, clean, and beautiful spot to go window shopping. quite amazed at the tiling here and all of these lovely windows and the cafes they put along there and the skylights. And even today, while the streets are cleaner, there's still a bit of pollution. It was really hot. So it's a nice space to get away from the street for a bit. I hope you don't mind, but I doubled the time here, tripled it in some cases, just so we can see as much as we can in as little time as needed. And here there was an influencer maybe taking photos. You often see that in the city. So we're going on to our next stop. I believe the people waiting in line here want to get into the B&F Museum, which is an arts and history museum in Paris. After this short ride, we've arrived at the Palais Royal. So we've arrived at the very elaborate Jardin du Palais Royal. This is where the Cardinal Richelieu lived. He was a very influential statesman in 17th century France. Influential enough to get this grand palace and this lovely garden. It was explained that this part of the garden, or the courtyard, was a parking lot for a while, but it was transformed into this lovely space with modern art.
Now, I'll get your picture.
And of course, my husband Mark likes to get creative with photos, so I obliged. And I think it turned out great. Back on our bikes, we're going to our next stop. And we were told that we were going through the garden at the Louvre. While it seemed intimidating, the cars moved slowly, and they tend to be somewhat respectful. At least not running us over or anything. So we're finally at the Louvre. I've never actually been in there, but I've been in the garden before. It always amazes me how big this place is. Now if you caught that, there's a slight glimpse of the famous pyramid at the center of it. So there's this little traffic circle where through traffic can go through. finally we're on the other side. And we're crossing the Panthéon. So we made our way left because we were just turning left right here towards our next stop, which will be at the Saint-Germain-des-Prés church. You can see it's beautiful in there. Because the speed of the video is still in double time, the organ playing is a little distorted, so let's slow down the speed to normal speed to really hear how the organ should sound. Back on the bikes through these narrow cobblestone streets, and we're just going a short ways away. Our next stop is the house where Eugène Delacroix lived and worked. He was an artist famous for a painting depicting the French Revolution. If you look it up, you've probably seen this painting. Our next stop will take a few minutes to get there, so just enjoy the ride. Now, I didn't know this while we were here. I only found out about this after looking at a map of where we've been going. This is called Place de l'Acadie. Since I'm part Acadian, it was nice to know that we passed through here. As we're winding through these streets, our next stop will be the Église Saint-Sulpice. As it was explained to us on the tour, this church was built as basically an overflow of Notre-Dame de Paris. Even though it's a big church, they need another big church. As is the case with some churches, the construction of this one spanned about 2 centuries, with the French Revolution being in the middle of it. So you can see that there were challenges. It was quite nice, but there are certain features that they kind of cheaped out on, and you can see from the outside how it's not symmetrical because one tower was built first, very ornate. The second tower, not as ornate. But it was nice regardless. Lots of little chapels, like one for Saint Jeanne d'Arc, or also known as Joan of Arc. So I did spend quite a few minutes in here, admiring it. But I was afraid of holding up the tour. But since we were a small group, I think things went pretty quickly. The thing about cobblestone streets is that while they might look nice, they're not very comfortable to ride bikes on, and in some cases, not even to walk on. One of the nice things about this tour is that we were able to converse with our group. So we're walking our bikes to our next destination, which is the Jardin de Luxembourg. Unfortunately, we couldn't see much of it because there was a huge storm that week in Paris, and lots of trees were down. but as you can see on the map, it was massive. So we went on to our next destination. Our next stop is just a short ways away from the Jardin de Luxembourg towards the Panthéon. One of the things I had to remember while biking is that my GoPro was on a harness on my chest, so if I was leaning down too much, you would see the handlebars more. But as we were approaching the Panthéon here, I remembered I have to point my chest upwards. This building is a mausoleum where people of high distinction in France are buried, such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Voltaire, Victor Hugo, Marie Curie, and her husband Pierre, and even Josephine Baker. While she's not buried here, there is a cenotaph of her here. So as we are leaving the Panthéon, we are headed to our next stop, which is an old Roman arena. Now, a bit of history of Paris. It started out at around 200 before the Common Era as a Gallic tribe known as the Parisians, which is where the name comes from. And then at one point, the Romans came in and set up their own city. And the thing about this arena is that it was built over, but then I believe that around the 19th century, they discovered that there was an old Roman arena here. So parts of it were restored, parts of it were rebuilt. Now, my GoPro battery was about to die, so the clip is going to cut short, and you'll get a glimpse of this arena before going to our destination after that. So this is the arena, which is also a garden, and we'll walk our bikes out, going around it. Our next destination will be in an area of the city called Le Marais. Marais in French means swamp, so when I first learned about this place, I was a little confused because I don't think of a swamp when I think of Paris. But once upon a time, before it was built over, it was a swamp. So the ride will be a little long here, but it's going to be scenic. More specifically, we're going to a place called Place des Vosges. So I guess Mark forgot to put his helmet on, just put it in the basket, and some parts were bumpy, so it bounced off. This actually happens all the time on my e-bike if certain items aren't secured. They will bounce out. So we're coming up to the Pont de l'Archevêché, a bridge to go on the southern side of Ile de la Cité, where there's Notre-Dame de Paris. So I attempted to turn slightly left, just to get a glimpse of it. So now we're on Ile de la Cité, behind Notre-Dame de Paris. And we're crossing Pont Saint-Louis, which was a nice pedestrian bridge. Now we're going to briefly bike on Ile Saint-Louis. As you can see, the streets are narrow, people are walking everywhere, and it's still a lot of cars, so it leads to some tight situations here. And now we're crossing Pont de la Mairie. Mairie in French basically means city hall, so we're in the city hall area. We got a little busy, but we turned onto another little narrow side street, heading to our next destination. Looks like we encountered another bike tour. I guess they like to wear matching helmets. We just have Holland Bikes identified on our bikes, with the leader in a convenient orange, just to make sure that she's easy to spot in case any one of us falls behind. That's another thing I like about having the guide. She seems to know the city quite well. One thing I don't like about biking in an unfamiliar place is not knowing the street layout, especially where there's bike lanes or not. and sometimes Google can lead me to strange places by personal experience. So now we're arriving at Place de Vosges. Honestly, what I retained from this place is that it was built as a fancy place for rich people with another fancy garden. But it was still beautiful. And finally, that was the last stop on our tour, so we will be heading back to the garage where these bikes are stored and where the tour started, just outside of Place de Lutèce. All there is to do is enjoy the view.
I'm behind you. No, I went through.
Finally reaching the Opera with that lovely photo of David Beckham, as you see down the road there. But we're going to turn towards the garage where we started. Now this is definitely a bike tour I would recommend if and only if you're okay with biking on streets like that. I'm pretty used to it, so I didn't really mind it. It was just easy to have a guide to show like exactly where to bike and where to go. And Mark has to duck really low because of the low clearance here. Finally, we can drop off the bikes and head off safely on foot. The total distance of our tour was about 11 kilometers. So we saw a bit of the Rive Droite, the Rive Gauche, around the heart of Paris, the Cité. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure enjoyed this ride. Until next time.